And now, this week's edition of Big Face with your host, Samantha Jane Tilton.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Face. I'm your host, Sammy Jane Tilton, and my guest today, the one and only, John O'Connor.
Thank you for having me.
Pause. He's a comedian and podcaster that came all the way from 2 feet away from me. I'm looking at the computer, but he's actually right in front of me. This is the first live podcast that I've done during quarantine, sir.
It's really hard because I can't tell when you're talking to your viewers or me.
Literally, guys, if you look, this is where you guys are. Here's the screen. This is him. You, him, you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So, John Joseph O'Connor is a comedian and a podcaster. He created his podcast called Spectacular Show, which is available where? Just tell people.
It's available. It should be available everywhere except for Stitcher. I don't know. I had some trouble getting it up there, but it should be everywhere else.
So
I'm like 2 minutes in. I'm getting ED jokes.
I was very lucky and fortunate enough to be on John's podcast a few times now, but just the other day we watched and talked about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which
yes.
I'm trying not to look at you guys. I know it's going to be weird if my eye line is totally off, so I'm going to try and look at him only on the computer as if he does not live here with me, like a boarder. So, yes. So this person, John O'Connor, is somebody that, this is episode number 33. And John O'Connor is one of, if not the reason that I did this podcast. So we will get into that. But he is such an awesome, special person that I wanted to have on the show. But I kind of wanted it to be a special time, and why not just any time? Because we literally live in a studio apartment together this entire time during quarantine. He's also my boyfriend, FYI, so he's not just like a cat that I took in. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
This nice guy, he kind of, I don't know if he threw out your back. What'd you do?
I don't know what I did. I do know what I did. Yesterday, for my podcast, I recorded a 6-hour marathon of episodes, but I didn't move for that whole time, more or less. So I was just kind of leaning forward on the couch for 6 hours, and now my back and hips hurt.
And I always tell him, don't, because he works from home now. And I'm like, don't work from the couch. I feel like it's bad for your body to hunch over. It's like everything that's wrong with.
It's definitely horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Now we're just too old to be able to handle it. That's the difference.
I told you last night when I was laying on the floor and stretching out, and I said, I'm getting old, babe. And then I went, oh, that's actually I've said that a bunch of times in my life as a joke. Last night was the first time I meant it. Yeah. I'm like 40, and now my back hurts, and it's just like, ugh, gosh, already 40.
And 40's young. I think we just got to not work from the couch.
I don't disagree. Maybe we can work from the closet or the kitchen counter.
No joke, guys. We literally have one desk that folds out from the wall. It's a studio apartment. It's a big studio apartment, but still, it's a studio apartment. So we have a desk anyway. So that's the lay, the lay of the land here. There's so much that I want to talk to you about, even though we never stop talking every single day. We wake up in the morning and I'm like, morning time. And I'm like, no. He's like, babe, I need a little time to wake up.
Even when I'm not awake. She'll just be like, beep, 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 beep. And I wake up and she's like, oh, are you awake? Now? Yes, I am.
So I started writing the description for John's episode before. You're just laughing. So I started writing the description before, and I guess because I love him, I was very generous with long-winded sentences, like giving his entire life
Nobody
story.
would have read that. Nobody. It was 5 paragraphs long.
It wasn't.
Which I appreciate.
Yes.
But also,
you know when I don't know if you guys are like
gotta sum it up.
I gotta say, so this guy, as what he does for work, proofreads like a maniac, and it's so good. So anytime I'm ever like, how would I say this, or if I have like 6 pages, he's like, and like 3 sentences later, he's like, there you go. And I'm just like, how? He's like brilliant at it. It's bananas. But what was I gonna say? So because there's so much I want to say, and John did stand-up comedy in mostly New England, correct?
That's right.
For how long did you do that, John?
It was on and off since 2003.
And at some point you moved here to New York to do it.
I did, yeah.
And what happened?
Did
you do it? Did you feel like doing it?
I did it, but also it was hard. 2 things happened. One, it was hard to go from to start over at the bottom, and the very, very, very bottom. To be like a comedian that gets paid to headline some stand-up clubs, but like clubs in Boston and, Providence or wherever, where, I was like headlining comedy shows. I was getting paid to do 45 minutes or an hour. And then you move to New York and you're, unless you have an in, you got to go start at mics and meet people and stuff. And it just sucked to go from paid shows, almost every weekend to, all right, you got 4 minutes and no one is here, or they all leave, and that's not every show in the city. So I didn't really give it very much of a go when I got here. And then it wasn't long after I got here that I started a job on the overnight shift, which I still did some shows, but it really changed everything with my relationship with comedy. Because before, when I worked a day job, I had shows to look forward to at night. So you go to work and you're like, oh, this sucks, but tonight I got a show and I'm going to see these people I know and like, and hopefully the crowd will like me, and I'll get to hang out with my friends, some of them, right? And it was this even if you bombed, it was still like, all right, I had a chance to go do something I liked though. But if you did great, then it was just great, and you had this nice feeling and enjoyable experience. But then working the overnight, then it became this thing where I was waking up, getting ready, going to do a show before I did anything else, doing the show, and then going to work. So it was this there was just like a no-win thing where you would go do a show, and if you bombed, then you bombed, and then you had to go to work. But then if you went to the show and you did well, it was great, but then you couldn't really enjoy yourself because then you had to go to work. So it was not ideal for me. And I just fell into this pattern of working all the time and not doing anything else. And when you work that overnight shift, your life is over. You're done, because you never know what day it is, because you go in on Wednesday, you get out on Thursday, but everybody else is calling it Thursday. I never knew what day of the week it was for like 4 or 5 years, for like 4 years. And it was exhausting, because anytime you had to do anything in the real world, go bring this form to whatever, the doctor, or go do this thing. It was like you'd work all night, then you'd stay up, then you'd go straight to the doctor if you could, then get back on the train, then go home. Then it was just gross. And I mean, it afforded me to live here, but I just fell out of it. I also it didn't bring me the same, it was very ego driven for me when I was younger. And I thought I was really great, and I was not. But I think that's a lot of community. I think you kind of have to have that, because almost nobody is good when they start. You have to just go. And when I say good, I'm not saying you can't do well. you can do well. But there's a difference between being pretty good at it and then just having a good set. You know, like in baseball, if a rookie comes out of the minor league and they come up and they go 4 for 4 with 4 home runs on their first day, it's like, wow, this player is amazing. But then if the rest of the year they bat 200, like nobody cares about the first day. It doesn't mean you're that good. Like that's just how well you've done. But you gotta be honest with yourself. And it was hard to do that for a long time with stand-up because I felt like it was a lot of self-validation. But it just wasn't, over time, it just wasn't that same feeling for me all the time. And it became this thing where there were a lot of nights where it was like, oh, now I got to go do the show. And you didn't feel like it, you know? Whereas 5 years before that, it was like, oh, I got a show tonight. It's like, where is it? It's in like a dumpster behind a rotted out 7-Eleven that's not even open. And nice. How many people, you know? You just didn't care. You couldn't wait to get up there. And I'm not saying I don't still sometimes get excited if I have a show or whatever, but yeah, since then I've kind of fallen out of it.
I feel like it's hard to, you see this for me whenever I have a self-tape. I'm an actor and I love to act, guys, anybody that's listened to me before. But as soon as I have a self-tape and like it has to be done and there's this pressure and I got to set up and I'm not feeling well and blah, 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 it's like, I have a self-tape due. And I have to like pause and remember like, oh, I actually love this. Like what's the one thing that you tell me every time I have a self-tape?
It's, well, one, that you love it, and when it's done, you're always happy, and that I just tell you to have fun with it and enjoy it.
He'll be like, I'll be stressed about something. And then he goes, babe, you always tell me to remind you, have fun. And it's like, I feel like that's, when it becomes something that is not feeling fun. And I don't know, it's hard to keep doing that. Yeah,
it's really hard to keep doing something you're not interested in. And it's not that I'm completely lost interest in it either. It's just that it's just not the same thing anymore.
But I was going to say, but it's not that you've completely lost interest because, So since John and I have been together, you started your podcast, you started Spectacular Show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny, guys. So John knows this, but when my brother met John, he's like, that guy's brain. He's got a brain for comedy. Like I love how I'm speaking about you like you're not here, but he's so quick with like, it's just my brother loves comedy. He has like the utmost respect. He's like, thinks it's an unbelievable art form. And so when he met John, we were at dinner and John was just like, you're not even big about it. You're not in your face. It's just your mind is quick and says it. And my brother, his face when he talks to John, he's just like, wow, like out loud. He says that. He's just like, wow, that guy.
I don't think I'm that impressive.
I know you don't, which is part of what makes you that much more impressive. Your brain is
I do have a predisposition, I guess, to like I don't even think about it. I'm just, if something jumps out, I'm like trying to get to the joke. I can hear it.
KB says that too, but anybody that gets to know you at all is like, and it's just, it's always with John, it's always that like thrown out comment right after this whole thing happened and everybody's just going along with it. And John will just walk by and go, da da da. And it's like this simple comment that like cracks everybody up that didn't even realize there was this hysterical thing going on or know how to even see it, that it was funny. And like, it's a gift. It's a real gift.
I'm very gifted.
So this is something that I've been saying to John recently. Your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What does that consist of for you? What do you do for your show?
The podcast has changed form since I started it. So the long and short of it was I started it and I wanted it to be a fake late night show, which is how I started it. And like 6 or 8 weeks into that, my computer broke, which set me back like 2 or 2.5 months. Then when I finally got back to it, it wasn't long before COVID hit. And so I fell out of the entire thing because I'm like, well, I can't go interview people because I used to go to people to interview them. not realizing, you could do it over Zoom or whatever. But the other thing is, making it a fake late night show. It's like I do a monologue and then I have to edit in laughs and claps and sound effects, and then I record fake advertisements for the show. And it's just silly. Like I try to make it funny, but I don't try to make it a comedy podcast. I just try to make it entertaining. And it doesn't matter how dumb it is or how silly it is. I just try to make it silly and at least fun. That's overall the thing I like the most about it, is making it fun. But the thing is, when I came back to doing it, I knew that I couldn't sustain what was going on before, just because it took too much time to create every episode.
How much time, like, for real? Because I don't know if anybody understands, like, to do a podcast, it takes so much time, depending on what you do also, right? There's not only the podcast itself when you're recording, it's the research or thing that you did before. Like, for example, John just did one recently that was about a video game. Mm-hmm. And how many hours did that take you to play the video game before you even started the interview?
With using a guide for the video game, it still took me like almost 40 hours.
What game? It was
Final Fantasy VI, which is like a 25-year-old game.
Right.
So yeah, I had to play the game and then interview my friend who was cool enough to play this game. And awesome. Then we interviewed for like 6 hours because it's like a 40-hour game. And then I still have to like go back and edit all that stuff and put in comedy stuff or funny stuff or whatever. So it takes a long time. I mean, especially with the monologue, it used to take a long time because I had to write the jokes, perform the jokes, edit the laughs and the claps into the jokes, edit fake ads, have an interview with someone. And then I always would try to have a fake guest on, and the fake guest took forever because I had to do the voice and do all the lines and then edit all the laughs and the claps. And it just took a very long time. So when I brought it back, I did a similar thing, and it's still silly and zany. And eventually I would like to go back to like at least the monologue opening, which I have not done for a while. But now lately I've been doing themed months, where the first month I came back, I did indie video games month, and I had some people on that played some indie video games. And for this month is December, we're doing a bunch of holiday stuff. We're doing 8 Days of the Goldbergs for Hanukkah, and we have some other stuff coming up. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is coming up, and a crossover with our friends at Movies in the Buff, a podcast that those guys. You've had John Dreyer on here.
Yep.
And our friend Brett Bolton, he also is a co-host. So we've got
great
some
guys,
stuff coming up
podcast as well.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. So it's basically just an entertainment show. But the thing is, I get it because it's kind of limiting when I say like, oh, I'm going to do an interview about Donkey Kong Country. If you don't know that game, you're probably not interested in it. But that's what I'm looking for. I want to find this outlet for people to just geek out about stuff, because that's the thing. I always want to talk about all of these things that I like or liked even as a kid, but there's no one to talk to about them. So I've tried to start scheduling talks.
Nerd sessions.
Yeah, basically.
Well, we just, it's funny because John and I, like he just mentioned, he's doing 8 Days of the Goldbergs. So if you haven't seen the Goldbergs, it's...
Why have you not?
Yeah, it is.
Awesome.
I introduced John to it, having grown up a Jew. How could you turn away from a show called The Goldbergs? That's as Jewy as it gets. But it's such a great show, whether you were Jewish or not. Like it became one of John's favorite shows, right?
Completely.
And
much. I love that show.
It's so great. But one of the things that we were just talking about on some of John's episodes is we both just, by the way, if you just saw us glance over, Charles Xavier, one of my cats, just woke up after sleeping for about 17 hours and was like, my food. Should we do a pause and give Charles his food?
He's got food.
He's staring at John right now.
Yeah.
So John was
he's like, yeah, feed me, dude. He must be so he slept for 17 hours because he's so tired from being up all night, waking us up every 5 minutes.
I know, and Storm's over here just like passed out right next to us. So anyway, John's like,
I love them, but
yeah, they've been keeping us up. So
lately.
it's been tough. So one of the things that we were talking about on the Goldbergs is about Adam, who is one of the characters. We won't say too much because we don't want to spoil anything, but Adam, and he's a kid who is a kid of the 80s, and he loves his toys. He loves his nerdy movies, and their grandpa Pops pushes them to stay true to being a kid and to not care what other people think. And we had a whole talk about that for the podcast. And we always talk about that, about doing what you love and screwing what everybody else thinks. And I feel like that's a hard thing. So
yeah, I feel like it's also a new phenomenon within the last like 20 years or so, because 30 years ago, if you were a person that dressed up in a costume and went to Comic-Con, you were like a freak.
Right.
Like there was something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But it turns out there are lots of people who like to do that stuff, and it was just no one could do it because they were picked on or ridiculed or whatever. But I think with the internet and social media and podcasts and you name it, with everybody being connected, it gives everybody this. It's easier to go find stuff you want.
Yeah.
It also makes it easier to create your own stuff. So if you want to go find someone that dresses up in Star Wars clothes and hangs out and does, I don't know, Star Wars stuff, you can do that. There are groups for that, I'm sure. So I think that that's changed a lot because it's taken people's interests and it's allowed them to grow.
I was just thinking about something that you said to somebody recently, and this has to do with, so John openly loves Ninja Turtles.
Like it's upsetting. I should not, the number of times I've stopped the conversation and be like, but babe, just listen. So Donatello, blah, 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 and she just goes like, she's like, is interested.
I am.
So nice.
We've had like, during quarantine, they had like what did they have? Like the first movie script reading? Is that what they had?
Oh yeah, they had the original cast of the movie.
The original cast.
Did like back in March, they did the 30th, I think it's the 30th year because it came out in 1990. So they did the 30th anniversary of the movie. They did like a table read via Zoom, and we had a little pizza party for it.
We did. We had a pizza party, and
it was cool. It wasn't like amazing, but it was cool to see.
It's cool to see because he loves it. And you know what? When we moved in together, he had all these action figures, like especially Ninja Turtles, like a lot of them. He's like, what? And he had them like in a Tupperware hidden in his closet. And I was like, and when we were like getting rid of stuff and Marie Kondoing the apartment, I'm like, why are these like in a Tupperware hidden? And I love that about John. He knows that. I love that about him, that you find joy in things that from your childhood that still bring you joy. And there is no shame about that. That's awesome. If everybody owned what they really liked and what they loved. And so now his Ninja Turtle figures are like displayed on our desk, like on a shelf, and they stay there. And I love that. I love that.
Me too.
I just wish more people, I wish I was more like that throughout my life. I love
You know what? I wish more people were like you and were as accepting of things. Like part of the reason they were in the closet is because I can't just be like, where am I putting my turtles, babe? Like, where you can put them in your own apartment when you move out.
No.
There aren't many like you.
There's not many like you.
You got that shit right.
You got to listen to his episode of Spectacular Show. We were just one of the episodes we talked about with the Goldbergs. But one thing I'll just say without ruining his podcast episode, because it's great. But one thing that's mentioned is never losing your childlike sense of wonder.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about you. And I love that you bring that to your work and you bring that to your humor. And so, oh God, you should see us, guys. And I really, like, I wish beyond all wishing that, like, everybody could be big kids and play the way that we do sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just do silly little dances and make up words to nothing and just, like...
Relentlessly.
Like all day, every day.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that one day they're going to take us away.
We're awesome.
Like, you guys,
we have each other.
How have you been paying your bills all this time? Lunatics.
So as
look at my dumpy bow tie. It's like a wilted flower. Look.
was it? I didn't notice.
Damn it.
And it's so funny because as you say that, I was just about to go to mention aspects of yourself that are not so free in your childlike wonder, like how you are a perfectionist and how that can keep you stuck sometimes. And I kind of wanted to ask you about that, if you feel like that.
I am a perfectionist, but it depends on what it is. And also it completely works against you if that's the way you are. It doesn't. If you're the kind of person that works until something is perfect, then fine. But it also, because I can't make things that I want and I make them perfectly, then I just don't do them, which is worse, way worse. So that's one thing about the podcast that I like, is that I have to put out a show every week. And whether I think it's good enough or not, it's save, upload, publish, because I think it's an important exercise because it makes you create. It just makes you do it. And whether it's up to your standard or not, it's got to go out the door. And I think it's good. I think it's good to give yourself deadlines and hold yourself accountable for those kind of things.
It's just a funny thing how when it's applied to oneself, I'll speak for myself, it's harder to do that. And you can give me words of wisdom like, babe, it's great. And like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see it. And I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I'm all in my head about that. It's terrible. And you're like, can be so focused on the one little thing about it where I'm like, you just did, like, for example, yesterday you hurt your back and you did 6 hours of intense talking after like doing all this other stuff. And then you were hard on yourself that you didn't get this other thing done. It's like and I speaking for myself, we are very, very similar, and I can do that too. Like focus on like the thing that's missing or the thing that is not perfect and then screw it all. You are the reason that I did this podcast. John is the reason that I did this. And because of that, I don't watch my episodes back ever. I don't listen to myself. I don't judge them because I know I don't know I will, but the way that I can be critical and perfectionist, that can be the case. So I don't want to. I want to keep being in the practice of doing it anyway, doing it imperfectly, getting in the habit of creating and that being enough and knowing that it's all a work in progress, that it's not going to be perfect. And like, I want that for you because your ideas are so beautiful. And like, but I do this too. Like you'll think about it, like how would I even shoot that? Like he has some beautiful ideas for films, short films, or like web series, or some really thought out, well, they're so vivid. I'll say that your ideas are really fleshed out and beautiful. And the thought of like, yeah, but how would I shoot that, or the location, or blah, 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 or how would will keep you from doing that, I would say.
Completely, yeah.
And I'm the same way. And then you'll talk to other people that did, and they're like, you don't know lighting. You just start trying to use lighting. You just start doing it. And it's like,
just make it so you make it.
I've never done anything. I've never known video, audio, editing, or anything. And I figured it out. I'm still figuring it out as I go.
I mean, that's one thing that the podcast also makes you do. It forces you to learn. And the first episode I did that I cut together, it took me like 20 something hours or whatever it was to do that first one. Now it's not so bad. It's not as bad. But it still takes time. It's just a lot of work, but a lot of, discovery, because you've got to look up every step. I use this program called Audacity. So it's like, how do I cut a part of a clip in Audacity? So you Google that, and then you got to read 2 things and watch 1 video. And then it's, well, how do I do this in Audacity? Every time you come to a new thing, you've got to go look it up and teach yourself. But I knew nothing about podcasts, and I did it.
He's the best at that though, because I'm like, how do I do that? Or what is that? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, did you Google it? It's like, he's like, I didn't know anything. And he's like, do you know how many times people go, how do you? He's like, I just Google everything. That's how, that has taught me a lot, instead of just immediately going to you to help me or somebody I don't always first try and do it, but I may ask and then may go, oh, and then start to do the research.
Right.
It's teach a man to fish, right?
Teach a man to fish.
That kind of makes sense, right?
For a day. Teach a man to Google. You can order some delivery.
So,
see what I mean? That wasn't even funny. You're over there cracking up.
John literally will like play peekaboo with me in like the silliest ways. Like that's how we put it the other day. He's like, you're the easiest audience, because he'll just like
he is.
He just like disappears and comes back, and I like
so easy for me to crush.
So John, actually we had John's friend on here, Ray Harrington. I forgot what number episode he is, but that's how I met Ray, was through John. And one of the things that you and Ray did together was you were in his web series Undependent.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that experience. And
well, it was acting, which I don't really do. So he asked me if I could play this someone that was interviewing him for a job interview, and I had enough of them and been in corporate America long enough where I was like, yeah, that would be fun. So when I got there, I asked him like one or two things, and I was like, okay. And yeah, I kind of knew once he answered my questions, I knew, because when I have to do acting, I don't.
There's sirens. So we're just going to speak up.
Yeah, we're just going to talk over.
It's really hot here today. You know, the heat that you can't control, we have that. So, right. So go ahead.
We've got that heat that just stays on. But when I act, I don't come up with a character or do anything. I usually just try to think of a person I know that I can impersonate that fits the role, which is kind of, it's like playing chords for guitar. Like you can play guitar, but you really can't play guitar. You just play chords, but you can make people think you can play guitar. So that's kind of what I do. It was fun. It was fun to do it. And, it was nice. I got nice feedback on it. So that's
what I was going to say. So it's, by the way, guys, if you do look it up, which you should, it's great. How many episodes are there?
There are six episodes on YouTube, and it's called Undependent.
Yeah.
And yes, when you type that in, it is going to take about 2 scrolls to find it, I think. But if you type in Ray Harrington Undependent, you'll find it.
Same thing. If you type in Big Face for my podcast,
it's
nothing.
Like 13th.
It's like ridiculous. But if you type in Big Face Samantha,
first,
golden. I don't know. Who knows how these things work? But yeah, so your instincts are very good. John showed it to me, and when they screened it, am I correct? Like the audience, that was like the biggest laugh that it got. Your scene, right?
I don't know if that was the biggest laugh. I just know that I couldn't go home for the screening to New England, but Ray told me that the opening scene which the only scene I'm in is the opening scene, but Ray told me that it got a really good reaction from people. So that was cool to hear.
It's so funny. And you got to do your own thing with it.
Yeah. That was the other thing was, he's a friend of mine. So he's just trying to make this pilot at the time. It became a web thing, but it was a pilot he was shooting, and it was just this little bit part. So there weren't a lot of lines to remember or anything, but it just, do you want to come do this creative thing? And at the time I was not doing very many creative things. So it was really nice to get the chance.
You know what I love that I'm asking you questions, and I want people to get to learn about you a bit, but I always have questions for you. Meaning there's always more to find out about you, and you're always introspective. And I was just going to ask you, and I don't know what the answer is, but if you could do anything, like we were talking about Elon Musk the other day, and that he sold PayPal for what, $180 million?
Yeah.
And you were like, $180 million. Like I would do
To
nothing.
me, that's plenty. I'd be like, I'm done. I win. That's it. Bye. And I would just take that and never go to work ever again. Because what do I have to prove?
But then I said, I'm like, okay, but if Elon Musk, like, I don't know him personally, but if like, it's fun for him, it's challenging for him, he likes his mind to work like that. I'm like, if you could make $180 million and then like make all the movies you want with no problem because you have all the money, you don't have to work, you would do all the movies and things that you want to do, right?
Probably. I would
because
try
you enjoy it.
Yeah, I think so.
So what would you want to do if your life could look?
I mean, I would want to travel. I haven't really traveled very much. I would want to do that. I mean, it's hard to do right now.
Yeah.
But I would want to travel. Otherwise, yeah, I would probably try to shoot some of the ideas that I have, because if the budget isn't ever going to be an issue, sure, we'll figure it out. We'll hire good people that know what they're doing and we'll make it work. I mean, I think I'd spend a lot of time once the finances were like just settled and in place. I'd probably spend a lot of time writing. I feel like if you can wake up in the morning and like work out or meditate or do whatever, and then all you have to do all day is write something you want to write, that's amazing. Who wouldn't want to create their own stories? I think that's so cool.
What kinds of stuff could you see yourself writing, or would you?
I don't know. I have when I say I have a big spread of ideas, I don't have a ton of ideas. I just have a few ideas that are varied. Some of them are comedy things, animation things, dramatic things. So I don't know. I don't know what I would like start with first. I think it would probably be, well, what can I do first, or what's most feasible to do first, or I don't know. I think for me, there are some ideas that I have that I think are cool, but I wouldn't want to maybe do them first, because maybe I'd want to get a couple of things under my belt and get a little experience and then do these other things later. So I'm not sure, but I think it would be something creative.
I mean, yeah, it's all creative.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was like, what would you?
I'd learn how to play more musical instruments and stuff.
Yeah.
That for sure. Yeah.
You love music.
I do.
It's interesting because I'm asking John some of these questions. I don't necessarily know. We talk all about our dreams and what we maybe would want to do, and we try and figure out who we want to be as people, and with all of our creative ideas and passions. And something that people have said since I've been with you and they've gotten to know you, they're like, he should be writing for TV. Like he should, like, why isn't he writing for things? And it's like, because you don't just get a job writing for like sitcoms, like you know, but sorry, I'll say one more thing and I'll let you speak, I promise.
No.
You always say like, and this has always been same way how you're good at like editing stuff. You've said that from the beginning. You're like, I may not have an idea flat out, but if you give me something, like I will definitely make it better. I know exactly how to make that better.
I think I do have a very critical eye.
Yes.
So if I see things, if I can see all of the pieces, I feel like I'm usually pretty good at arranging them and then linking them. I've had one of my buddies, Mike Hanley, like years ago. He's still a comedian. He's real funny. He lives in Massachusetts. He had kind of two bits that he didn't know what to do with, and he called me one day. We were on the phone for like a couple hours just talking, and I was like, we'll do the bits, tell me them. And he told me the bits, and I said, all right, well, what if you do it like this? And I just gave him this idea. Like, if you set it up like this, and then you link it like this, and then you end it like this, you probably get a big laugh, I think. I don't know. And he called me like, I don't know, 6 months later and told me that I told him that all those months ago. But that particular night he was headlining and he said, he didn't really like buy what I said. He told me this like flat out. He's like,
yeah,
I didn't really feel it when you told me, so I never did it. But that night I was like, you know what, the heck with it. I'm gonna do what John said. And he said he got this humongous, it was like his ending bit, and he got this humongous reaction by making that switch that I told him to. And it's one of those things where, I'm not the best at creating my own little nuggets of ideas and developing them into something, but I'm pretty good at, here's a script to make it better. Yeah. I think I'm pretty good at that, because I do. I think I have a critical eye, and I feel like I'm good at building framework, if that makes any sense. Like I'm good at building a skeleton or putting a skeleton together.
Yeah. I want to say this, guys, because it's funny. If you knew John, which you're getting a little piece of it right now.
Lucky you.
If you knew John, and you heard the way his mind works and the ideas that he has, and got to spend any time with him, like, I feel like I'm like Jerry's mom, or like, who couldn't like you, Jerry? Because like, I feel like I'm about to say, anybody that's met you, that you're great, everyone loves you. And
it's a pretty broad statement.
It's pretty true. And not only are you funny, you're a nice person. You're a very caring person. To a fault. Moving to New York has helped me with that. But yeah, I used to be nice. I used to be nice to a fault. I am not nice to a fault. You were, it's a process, I feel like, of you, but you have come so far with that, but you are still such a caring, you will like throw down your everything to be there for someone you care about without like, and my point of that was, I was going to say, like, and I feel like this too, and I've spoken about this on my show, I can speak to other people, whether it be like students that I coach or people that I'm teaching in class, or even creative friends of mine, where I can see it so clearly, like their talent, how this is going to work, their next steps, what could be useful. But when it comes to me, it's like a big ball of mush sometimes. It could just feel like, it can kind of feel like I don't even know the next step, and it could feel hard. And
it drives me crazy, because you spend your nights teaching people how to act, and they all go, oh, thank you, Samantha, you're right. So then when you're like, now how do I do this? It's like, you just told 12 people how to do it.
But you, John, and I, John is the reason that I started this podcast. And
that's true.
That is true. And it's because I am hard on myself, and I don't necessarily see myself for who I actually am and what I am maybe good at or whatever. But John did. And John was like, you do this. I see you do this. I see you do this. And why are you not doing this? And so I'm saying to you, you don't see yourself as you actually are. And I think that is for a lot of us out there, a lot of creative people. And you don't give yourself enough credit. And Charles Xavier is like wandering around the table right now, probably gonna knock over the mic. So if there's a big 30
wires, so naturally he's got to be in there chewing on all of them.
He's there just he is sniffing around.
Yeah. Move that bushy tail out of the way.
He's blocking you like Charles. So all right, now he's in my light. This is all gonna go very bad very soon, guys.
There he is. Meow.
Should we do a pause and give him some food?
Sure. Or I can just get up and run away for a second.
Go ahead. You run away for a second. Run away.
No.
I love it. So I'll just say, guys, I think that can be very common with us, to not be able to see ourselves as clearly as maybe somebody else, that it would be great if we could see ourselves through their eyes. John is kind to a fault, giving to a fault. He's also like talented to a fault, that he expects like the absolute best and most perfect version, maybe the first time out or whatever. He used to spend so much time. He said, yeah, he's right next to me, guys. This is my first live interview. That's because the only person I see. And he would spend so long editing, because he would edit out or like mouth noises, and I'm going to give him a chance to come back and rebuttal. But
no, it's true.
It is true, and I think it's I think the show a lot of times talking to people is an opportunity for people to see themselves in other people and hear those things and maybe be able to pause the next time for me when I'm being hard on myself or I'm expecting it to be perfect, to remember all the people that have come here and talked to me about how that didn't serve them and how they had to get past that in order to succeed or move forward. John?
Well, I think that there's a lot to be said about, at least for me, my biggest thing was, things are never good enough. That's something I struggle with comedy, like coming up with material. Sometimes I'll be sitting in the audience or on the side or whatever, and I'm watching a comedian, and the joke that gets a laugh, I'm like, that is just the silliest line. Like anybody could have thought of that. But the crowd is like roaring. And granted, some of it is just placement. Especially with stand-up, a lot of people they think they have to go up there and just like become more than they are or do something. It's like, well, no, just go be likable. If someone's likable, you'll laugh because you like them. Even if the joke isn't funny, you'll still be like, you won't, because you want them to feel good. You don't want them to feel like that wasn't funny or something, right? But so I don't know. With stand-up, I wasn't as good at it, but with the pod, it's like it's a good exercise for me because nothing's ever good enough. But if nothing's ever good enough, you're never going to make anything. So if that's the case, you've got to give yourself this deadline in this format where you are forced to create something. I saw a documentary with the White Stripes one time, and Jack White was saying that's the worst thing in the world is to say like, oh, you have all the time in the world, all the colors in the world, and paint any color, blah, blah, blah. He said, no, like get a deadline. You want to make an album, rent the studio, set a deadline, and record your album. And whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. Like don't, and he talked about just showing up and working. And he's like, I'm not always inspired to do stuff, but some of it is just getting in there and just doing it. Just showing up. If you show up to work at the mine every day, if you're just digging rocks, eventually, even if it's after years of going to the mine, eventually you're going to pull out a big jewel. The odds are in your favor. If the more you do it, the odds are in your favor to succeed or have some level of success at something. So the biggest thing for me is consistency, because I'm a wildly inconsistent person. I start something and then fall out of it, and then it's like, oh, well, forget it. I'm not going to do it at all. I ruined my whole life. Like, I look at like The Rock on Instagram. The guy's up at 4:30 in the morning, lifting weights, drinking a thing. He's on a private jet to go fly, sign a thing for a movie. Then he's back in the jet. He gets out of the jet. He like fights a dragon, beats that. Like, he's constantly doing something. And I think for me, I look at folks like that and I think to myself, how am I ever going to measure up to someone who is this dedicated to success? But you can still do little stuff. You can still do something.
Yeah. And you're not The Rock. Like what you bring to the world is not what he is bringing to the world.
No.
You have a completely different mindset. I don't even care if you guys think similarly. You're different people.
Yeah.
So like maybe your skill set is not going to have to be up at 4:30 a.m. But maybe it's just going to have to be every morning when you wake up, setting a routine of writing and just getting good at setting a routine. Like it's different for everybody. But I like you speaking on that because I am so hard on myself. I am. And if I don't do it, then I'm the worst. Then I have no talent. It's like, that is the worst thing we can do to ourselves, in my opinion.
Well, I've heard you on your show say like, if if you don't have the confidence to call yourself an actor, then who else is going to call you an actor, right? And I've been trying to stay away from people because of quarantine and hopefully maybe getting to spend some time with my family for the holidays. But I was going for jogs and stuff for the better part of the year. Eventually, COVID kind of went away here for a little bit, kind of. So I started going out and jogging again, which I had started doing in the beginning of the year before it hit. And I always remember thinking to myself, because after I started running when I was, 30 or so, I considered myself a runner, which is so stupid because I'm not. But ultimately it comes down to, well, if you run every day or every couple of days, even if you only do a couple of miles, you're a runner.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing is, feeling like, I don't want to go for this run today. It's like, yeah, but in 25 minutes, 28 minutes, whatever it is, you're going to be done. And you'll be a runner again today, as opposed to not doing it. You don't do it one day and then something happens the next day.
Yep.
And then before you know it, a week has gone by and it's, why should I bother running anymore? That's how I am.
Yeah.
A week goes by, I miss a week of something, that's dead. It's a new thing for me to allow that to be okay with stuff. But certain stuff, like if the podcast is late, I lose my shit.
Yeah.
Because it's my fault. It's my fault. The end. So I think it's good to give yourself some kind of deadlines and restrictions.
But then it's like, it's my fault. And then when you go into that space, it's like, it only, for me, like I see it for you and I know for me, when I go into that space of then being hard on myself, for some people that works, that tough love thing, that works. That has never worked for me. When I hammer myself, when I am not perfect, because I'm human and I'm bound to be imperfect, there's no way that I'm always going to do it right. When I hammer myself for it, I am so much further from being able to get on track. It crushes my soul. Like it crushes it.
Mm-hmm.
I just bury myself in called self-hatred, but it just colors everything.
Yeah, that's also something that doesn't, I know I've seen a lot of people motivated by, they get motivated.
Okay, your video is blotching out, but it seems okay now.
It's okay?
Yeah.
I've seen people that use anger and they use revenge or vengeance as a motivator. And I feel like I used to do that, but I don't think it's as productive. If you want to do something, don't do it because you're trying to.
There is a slight delay in your video.
There is?
Yeah. Guys, gonna pause real quick. Gonna try and reset video. Hold on one sec. We maybe got it figured out. We may be blurry. We may disappear.
It looks good.
Yeah.
I think.
We'll make it work.
I think.
Go ahead, continue, my friend.
I think what I was saying was that vengeance and anger for fuel, if it works for you, then great, use it. But I don't know. I think when you do that, you're creating something, or you're trying to drag yourself to spite somebody else, which if you want to make something, I think you should just want to make it enough where you then go make it or do it. And I used to use that revenge idea, or that, I don't know, not mantra, but that used to be kind of my fuel. But I don't know, it's dumb. Who cares? Just do whatever you want to do. Why do you have to worry about what other people think of it? Or I don't know. Yeah.
Or even just, when I used to do that to myself, I used to be like, well, then I'm never going to do it if I don't make myself do it. If I don't if I'm not hard on myself, then but it wound up backfiring because I was hard on myself. And then I felt worse, and it was even harder. I dug a hole, and it was even harder to get out of.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting phenomenon. I don't know, some people aren't like that, but whenever I have a very close friend who I love dearly, and he, at one point, we had a disconnect because he was kind of tough love with me. And this is somebody, John knows who I'm talking about. And like, we are so tight, it's like family. And he was tough love with me. And it almost kind of could have maybe ended our friendship. And it actually brought us a lot closer because that's how he works. And when we wound up talking about it and I explained it actually makes me worse, we both shifted and I understood where he was coming from. And then he's never done that. And now he kind of understands me better and we actually became closer. So if it doesn't work for you, however somebody treats you, I don't know. For me, it helped to say something and it actually brought me closer with somebody instead of it being like a source of like, I was going to say contentment, but that's not the word I meant. Contempt.
Yeah.
Contentment.
I mean, for sure in like personal things, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt if you can try to smooth things over or reach out or talk to somebody.
Yeah.
If they don't want to talk at that point, then that's on them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just talking about, I've seen other comics or like other just artists in general where it's, they're so mad. So they're going to create all this stuff. And it's just like, why? If you're the shit, why do you care about, let these other people have their thoughts? Who gives a shit?
It's so interesting, but you and I are very like-minded in that. Last week, my guest, we talked a lot about being generous with other creatives, and that there's kind of two kind of creatives, ones that are like generous and giving and will just give all they can to help a fellow creative. Then there are others that are very competitive, self-driven, and like in what I see, like kind of fear-based, in that they feel like they have to hold on to all the information.
Oh yeah.
Because they're in competition. And if you are one of those people, I get it, because it's being a creative. And if that's what you're pursuing in your life, it can be difficult, maybe not for everybody, but I truly believe like there is only one of us. And John, you're like this too. Like, you always want to collaborate with other comedians and other, I don't know, do you guys like to be called comedians or comics?
I'd say comics.
Okay. I would say comedian.
I don't always want to collaborate with other people. Let me be clear.
We actually don't like to talk to humans.
There are plenty of people who are like, hey, I've got that. And it's like, no.
Right.
But, and I say that because it's just a matter of personal taste.
Yeah.
Or I don't believe they're serious or whatever.
Or hate them.
Or I just don't like them. For sure. I mean, there are plenty of people I don't like.
Not me.
Not you. But yeah, there are plenty of people I do or did want to collaborate with and never did, or the opportunity didn't present itself or whatever. But I think a big thing, if you can make it work, is aligning yourself with people that have a similar vision or the same vision to what you do. And if you can find a group like that, it's weird because stand-up comedy is not a team sport, right? It's just me and that's it. But I kind of like what, like somebody like Adam Sandler does, where he's got his movie deals, but he's like, all right, but we're old friends and I know you can do this and you can do this. Yep. So all of you people come with me. We're all on this team. We're all on Team Sandler.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's great when people do that. Sharing and things like that, I think it breeds better art or products or whatever, just because people have the same drive and vision in it. But that team environment, that team cohesiveness, that group, it builds oftentimes healthy competition, but it also builds like pride and a desire to execute.
And I just think ideas are heightened with like different points of view.
Absolutely,
and like somebody has a good idea and then somebody goes and then it's like, oh, then it's like, fireworks, like that thing just blew up. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And you and I both are like that. I think this is why I say this. I think we both love collaborating and like that good feeling we get when there's a nice connection. I know when John has somebody on his show, I hear him laughing and I hear like, oh, so great to have you on the show. Like, I know he means it. We love that feeling. And we've talked about like, Judd Apatow and like, a lot of those guys do stuff together, Seth Rogen.
Yeah, he's got like his Judd Apatow all Madden team.
Yeah, exactly. And like, Seth Rogen, so like there's a lot of people that work together. And I think it's really a gift to find that. John and I, we always say like, oh, we wish we had people that wanted to do stuff,
It's hard to find people that are like-minded, but also at the same time.
Willing.
What?
I said willing.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, willing is another thing, but also it becomes this thing where you can't be surrounded by people who are trying to steal the show the whole time. If that's the natural order of things for this group, then fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it becomes very difficult when, because whatever you're doing, if it's a TV show, a pilot, of whatever, everybody's got their role to play. But if the person who's supposed to be the side comment over here keeps trying to like, bogart the scene, it's like, well, forget it. This is not going to work because you're trying to insert yourself into things you're not supposed to be.
It was, it was a really cool, John and myself and one of our other friends started writing a web series during this time in quarantine. And what was cool, and we have to work some things and figure it out. Anyway, it's in process. But what was cool is that the three of us, it was like we were all very aware the whole time, like, hey, I'm cool. Like you could be honest. And we tried to be open, honest with feedback. And like, it wasn't about any one person. We just tried to all like, that would make this better. That would make this better. That would make this, and like just all. It
was great to just write. And I said it when we were talking about the scripts and stuff. I just, I kind of put the first draft down and then gave it to you guys to look at. And what do you think? But it was great to just also, I could feel people being hesitant, like, it's like, all right, well, there's stuff you don't like. Look, there's no ego involved in this.
Right.
This is me taking a shot in the dark. This is what I came up with.
Right.
Doesn't have to be this at all.
Right.
But we're just trying to get rolling here. So what's the next step? What do we change? What do we improve? What do we lose? What do we add? Just, let's collaborate.
Taking the ego out of it. And that was like, look, communication. Didn't we start the conversation? Oh, no. We were talking on John's pod about on Spectacular Show about communication and the Goldbergs. But in any relationship, communication, right? And it's funny because John, myself, and our other friend that we were writing with, we're all so different on our takes to it and our ideas about it. And I think that made it stronger. Like, I think that I don't know. I think it's really cool. So I hope for our sake that we find, I think it's kind of like finding diehard friends or loves of your life. It's like kind of like soulmates in creativity. Yeah. I think it takes time to kind of find who you groove with. So
that's true. And once you find them, because you end up making great stuff. Especially if people are out, it's not about them. It's about the thing, whatever it is. That's the case. It's always going to be good because people are going to give it their all.
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset.
And again, there's no, I've had comedians, I've been doing a bit or something on stage and a comedian will be like, hey, that part where you said ABC, if you just pause and then say DEF here like this, it's going to, and you go, oh yeah, that's a great insight. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to try that. I feel like that happens with comedians all the time. Yeah. And some people are too proud to listen to what you say and try a thing. And some people are like, thank you for that tip. I will give that a shot and see how it goes, You
made me think of something. I remember I don't know if it was in the beginning of us dating, but can you tell us what it is to score a comedy show or what you do?
There are different ways to create games to keep track of how well you do on a set. Ralphie May has a video out there somewhere. I think it's on Vimeo. Ralphie May is at like the Comedy Store and he's since passed. Let me be clear about that. But he had this video where they just asked him like, Ralphie, can you come in and talk to these new comedians? That was it. And he sat there for 3 hours on the stage at the Comedy Store, just giving tips, giving advice, giving instructions on how to do stand-up. And one of the things he gives is this little game you can play for when you're doing your act, how you can give yourself kind of an honest score. You can kind of grade yourself, right? So I came up with a similar thing where I just used a method of marks on a line on a page to indicate like a small laugh, a medium laugh, a big laugh, a huge laugh with an applause break. And then, where are all of these tracks? Like this would be the first track. This would be, because you can score like a comedy album that way, right? If every time somebody gets a small laugh, you make one mark. If they do a medium laugh, you make a different mark. And then you do that for all the way across the page, track 1, track 2, track 3. And then at the end, you just add them all up. And you can see how many big laughs you got per bit, how many big laughs you got per minute, how many total laughs you got. And that's basically what I did to start kind of punching up my act, because I was comparing it. And, people will be like, well, it's so subjective. What's a little laugh? What's a bit? It's like, well, who gives a shit? It's on you. If you're hard on yourself, then it'll be better. So who cares? Like, yeah, there's some room for error, but it's what's an error? You're trying to get better. If this thing will quantify laughter, even if it's a loose idea, it's better than no idea. So you take this little mechanism. Every time you get a little laugh, you make a certain type of a mark. A medium laugh, you make a different mark. A big laugh, you make a different mark. And you do that for like 4 or 5 different types of laughs, and then you can count them all up and see how you did.
So it's very cool, because I wish I could show you like the score for a comedy, like or stand-up that he did, because like I remember seeing it the first time on a piece of paper, and it's like a piece of music, but with marks that I've never seen. That's like specifically it's your language for scoring.
Yeah,
it's at a different height. Like the things were, they were at a different height. Some had circles around them, and just went across the board. There was a line to end this note. It's like,
yeah, I basically did it like I did it by bit. So, all right, this is my quitting my job bit. This is my getting drunk bit. This is my I hate children bit. That's not a thing, but whatever. And then, because in a comedy album, it's typically broken out into tracks. So what I did was I took a few comedy albums. I took Mitch Hedberg, Mitch Altogether. I took Dave Attell's Skanks for the Memories, and I took Kyle Kinane's Death of the Party, and I just listened to them, and I scored those guys what I thought were honest scores. And then I listened to headlines that I had done, and I just went, all right, this is this bit, that's track 1. This is this bit, that's track 2. And then I scored myself. And I was within like 20% of them in terms of number of laughs. But the thing was, I got a lot more little laughs. I got a lot more speed bag out of it, whereas they got a lot more big punches, big laughs, or if you got a laugh and an applause break, I would mark that a certain way too.
Favorite stand-up of all time, or
favorite stand-up of all time?
Yeah.
Do you mean comedian or special?
I'll give you comedian, then special, and then I'll follow it up with one more.
All right.
Tough.
In the last 10 years, it's changed quite a few times.
Okay.
I would say this, my favorite comedian of all time is Bill Burr. Hands down, that guy has made me laugh harder than basically anybody ever. I share like a lot of he and I come from the very like same part of the country. It's like, I think it's culturally, we're somewhat aligned. So his rhythm and his cadence and his mindset, I share a lot of it. Which I think is why I identify with him, and that's why he makes me laugh. Favorite special of all time, it's really hard. The two that I like, and keep in mind, this is someone who doesn't watch that much comedy anymore. I used to watch every fucking thing that came out, every time it came out. Now, if I watch 2 or 3 comedy specials a year, that's a big deal for me. I used to do that in a weekend. So my favorite comedy special of all time for a long, long, long time, it was Bill Hicks' One Night Stand. I think Bill Hicks' One Night Stand is an awesome comedy special. Genius. I like that it was more than just a set. Like his whole intro to the special is like a small, I don't want to say a small movie, but it's a small sequence that's filmed, that's cinematic. Before he comes on stage. And that small sequence leads into him getting on stage. And there are a million things I like about it, and I don't want to spoil anything. If you want to watch it, go watch Bill Hicks' One Night Stand on HBO. It's like one of my favorite specials and one of my favorite sets of all time. That being said, when Bill Burr, probably 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, he did I'm Sorry You Feel That Way, that's a Netflix special that's shot all in black and white. And I think that is a comedy masterpiece. I love that.
That's exactly my brain was going. That is a masterpiece. That's my brain just kept saying that while you were talking.
It's stupid how some of the punchlines in that special are horrible, but he's getting these gigantic laughs out of, and that's the thing. I think as a comic, especially, you can get laughs out of like, I've always admired someone who takes a very touchy subject or something that I would be afraid to talk about, or I wouldn't be confident talking about it. And they take that and they make an entire room full of, or most of the people in the room laugh at it. That's to me, that's the sign of like a real great bit or comic or joke or whatever. So yeah, it's really hard for me to pick. I like them both for different reasons, but I would say it's either Bill Hicks' One Night Stand or it's Bill Burr, I'm Sorry You Feel That Way.
I was just gonna say favorite punchline, but then I was gonna say that would ruin it.
I will say my favorite punchline ever is in Bill Burr's special, and it's all I'll say is this: there's a bit in that special if you happen to watch it. It's about a helicopter, and I'll leave it at that. But the very last punchline he has for that joke, I think, is the funniest punchline I've ever heard.
God, that special was so funny that there was a lot of it I couldn't even laugh for. If you remember, I was like guys, I just couldn't believe how good, how brilliant he is as a comedian, dude. Plus, fucking respect, like you said, he talks about things that, dude, especially nowadays when it comes to comedy, you can't say anything. You got to be careful to say anything on a podcast. You say your opinion and you could be crucified for. And I love that he doesn't give a shit. He holds his ground and he doesn't care. Yeah, good for him.
I really do admire that.
I admire that more than anything. And he doesn't say I'm right. He just says, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the asshole. But that's how I see it. That's how I feel.
That's what I like about it is he blatantly tells you at least once a special. He's like, don't listen to me. I don't read. Okay.
Yeah.
But whatever. But
he's like, I'm a fucking psycho. I'm a psycho.
Yeah. But that's what I like about him is he's like, this is who I am. This is what I feel or think. And then if people don't like it, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't mean to be an asshole.
Right.
Right.
I'm just up here saying my thing. Like, good for you, man.
So yeah, I would say he's way up there. I don't know. There are some other honorable mentions. Like I really love Sinbad. I think Sinbad is one of the funniest people alive. Like, I think he's one of the funniest comedians I've ever seen.
Is he still doing stuff?
Yeah, he's still out there. I mean, I think he is just, even as an actor, even in stuff I've seen him act in, he's so funny. He just cracks me up.
His physical comedy is so, I have not seen much of his stand-up or any. Mm-hmm. So, but even when we watched Jingle All the Way, which you guys should tune into the episode with, it's a crossover. So it's going to be Spectacular Show and Movies in the Buff.
Yeah.
So these three guys, Brett Bolton, John Dreyer, John O'Connor with me, discussing Jingle All the Way. I had never seen it.
Yeah. It's like a Christmas movie from 1996 starring Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Sinbad,
Rita Wilson, and Phil Hartman, and Jake Lloyd.
Yes.
And it's I think I told you, it's like a great bad movie.
Yes, that's exactly how you described it.
Yeah.
But I won't say anything else about it. But Sinbad was great in that. But you guys should check out that episode. It'll be when does that one come out? Soon,
That's coming out the week of Christmas.
The week of Christmas. So look out for that one too. It's a great episode. I was there when they recorded.
Phil Hartman is great in it too. Yeah.
Phil Hartman's great in it. I was sitting there like just in the back, silent, and I was like laughing out loud, trying not to be heard by their mics because they were like, "You guys are great." But anyway, so. Yeah, we talked about a bunch of stuff. We talk 24/7, guys. We live in a studio. We never leave.
She talks 23/7.
It's not true. See? You hear that beep? They were like, "Shut up, John." Yeah, that's right. So anything
to be fair, it's 9:00 on a Sunday.
That's
why wouldn't they be laying on the horn? Good night.
There have been so many more horns lately. We're just kind of just like, what is happening? Just like, where are you gonna go?
I daydream about like having a sniper rifle sitting here. Beep 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 beep. Really? Right through the windshield. Now you're gonna all have to wait in traffic until they move that body.
I love you.
I love that. I'm like, man, I fantasize about killing people. I love you.
So if those of you, I don't know, if you see him and he doesn't seem like a gentle person, if you hear him, then you especially can't see what a gentle person he is. But he's just like the biggest, awesomest, sweetest bear that has a temper that's hysterical. Because good for you, deserve to get angry sometimes. You don't always have to be the nicest person in the entire world. So,
and don't be, because it's not.
No,
being the nicest person in the world is it's great because you're genuinely helping people, but then there are so many people that will take advantage of you, and you have to learn to know the difference, and that's hard.
That is very hard.
Because the people who are really good at manipulating you, you won't know for a while probably.
And it's and it takes, unfortunately, sometimes it takes learning, and then learning to set up boundaries more instinctually. It's so hard. Relationships are hard anyway. But Bill Burr, I remember, now I don't want to say anything about what he said, but he just talked about something, and he like went into the bathroom and he like cried a lot for like a minute. And then he was like, and then I took it and I shut off and I shoved it right back on that shelf. Like, I forgot exactly how he said it.
Yeah, basically it's like, do some man stuff. Shove it down, repress your emotions, act like you have answers.
And that's why he rages. And that's
right. Oh yeah, and that's the thing, is he knows that.
He knows that.
Yeah.
He's so aware. Anyway, God, I've gone about Bill Burr.
He's also, the thing I like about Bill Burr too is
I've
always enjoyed a comedian. Jim Brewer is another one. Jim Brewer paints such a great picture. He paints a scene when he's doing a set. Bill Burr has, over time, instead of just having a tight act, he does these bits where he'll just jump into a scene. He's acting out a scene with someone that's not there.
That's not there.
And he's very good at it.
He is.
I think.
He became, and he like, kudos, like that guy can act. Like I won't say anything about stand-up, but he does this thing and he plays another person, which he does all the time, but this one specifically. And you're just like it's as if he is this other character. He's phenomenal, man. He's so good.
I think he's amazing.
So I will ask you a question. Now we ask you.
Marissa told me.
Would you give a fuck what kind of pants the son of a bitch you shot you was wearing? I just assigned that to my class last week to do my cousin Vinny. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. E, if you're listening to this, that's my best friend, and she still hasn't seen it. And I'm like, I will buy it for you. You need to see it.
It's a good movie.
It is a good movie. We watched it the other night. It was funny. It holds up. So anyway, there's a question that I ask the folks that meet me through the internet. That sounds really dark and dirty.
I know none of them are coming here. So
there's a question and or a segment of my show that is called The Feather in Your Cap. And And by feathering your cap, I mean something that you've learned that you've taken with you that has maybe served you in your life, that may serve you in the future, or an achievement. You know the gist. You hear me talk about feathers in your caps all the time.
Mhm.
Do you have one that comes to mind that you'd be willing to share with those viewing and listening? Me, please.
Just do I have good advice?
I don't know if it's advice, something that works for you.
A feather in your cap, something that I could give to people that would help them. I would say two things. One, yeah.
Yeah, I love it too. I tried to say two and then go ahead. I'm sorry.
One, do not waste any of your time. Any of it. Don't waste any of your time doing things other people want you to do. Because it's a huge waste. And the thing is, I'm not saying don't try new things. But if you're in your 30s and you've always wanted to be a musician and you never have, like, why? And if there's a reason, find out the reason and then go learn how to play some music. Or if it's, your family wanted you to be a teacher, but you didn't want to be a teacher. You wanted to be an accountant. So why are you a teacher? Go be an accountant. Like, don't let other people try to talk you into having the life they see for you. Have the life you want for yourself. It's hugely important, and I don't think anybody really gets any credit for it. When I was a kid, they said, don't be an artist, because if you're an artist, you'll always be poor, which is bullshit. Because now, and granted, the world has changed, right? Graphic design has come in. The world's a lot different now. But yeah, when I was younger, I used to love to draw and illustrate and all that stuff. And everybody was like, don't be an artist, man. You're not going to make any money. So I just stopped it because it's like, well, this is a waste of time. And I wish I had, because I used to really enjoy drawing. I used to get real relief and peace out of it. And the other thing is, don't take any shit. Not to go back to Bill Burr, but I saw a meme of him one time, just like frozen in place, like from one of his stand-up sets. It was like somebody screen capped it, and he was just like this, and it just said, "Don't." Just across the top or bottom, it just said, "Don't take any shit." And I'm almost certain that's him. That's a direct quote from him. But yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, don't let people walk all over you. I wish I'm still not great at it, but I'm better at it than I used to be, which was I used to be a doormat. And now, after I'm a little bit older and you learn some things, you kind of learn, like, I keep, for whatever reason, making excuses for this person. Why is that? There's no reason to make excuses for this person. Did this person do A, B, C, D, E? Yes. Are those bad things? Yes. Why do I associate with this person? Cut those negative people out of your life, people that manipulate you, people that drag you down. Don't take any shit from anybody else and cut them out of your life. It's a good change. No matter what, it's a good change. Sometimes it's hard to do, but it's good.
I like that. Thank you. What didn't we talk about?
I don't know. What didn't we talk about?
I don't know. It's hard.
It's hard because it's just all day, every day. So then So I don't know what we talked about here or what we talked about there.
Hey, should I give it to you here or should I give it to you there? For those of you listening, that was the finger.
Yeah.
So, John Joseph, tell people where they can listen to your podcast and where they can get in touch with you when they want to know more about your podcast and all that good stuff.
They can listen to my podcast on all major podcast platforms, with the exception of Stitcher. I don't know why. I'm trying to get it to work.
I think mine didn't work on Stitcher for a while. You know what? I think it does now, but
yeah, I have to look it up. Maybe it's on there now. I don't know, but I was having trouble with that. But it should be anywhere else: Google, Apple, Podbean, Podomatic.
And what's the name of your show?
The name of my show is Spectacular Show.
And where else can they? Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
And you can find me on Instagram at Spectacular Show Pod.
Great. Sounds good to me, man.
Sounds great to me.
No, me.
All right. You.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. I think, I don't know. Yeah, guys, sorry. I talked to him all day. It kind of just gets wishy-washy after. It says wishy-washy. John Joseph O'Connor. Do you hate that I'm using your middle name?
No, I don't
Okay.
care.
Thank you for being 2 feet away from me and doing the show and being an awesome.
Awesome. I've got that a lot in my life.
You were
You're
awesome.
the most awesome boyfriend.
It's like exhaustive and awesome. What did I say? Awesome. I don't know.
Awesome. You said awesome,
Awesome.
which is not, to my knowledge, a word.
Now it is. Just watch this catch fire. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being an inspiration to me and to other creative people by continuing to try and figure out exactly how you want to live your life and how you want to use your gifts and your talents to help others, to make other people laugh and to leave your mark as you. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here, guys. Thank you for watching and listening. And thank you for supporting all of your likes and you guys subscribing to the YouTube channel and your comments. They're so appreciated and they help so much. So if you haven't, please do so. Keep this going. And we love you. We appreciate you. John peaced out. That was nice.
Yeah.
He's a nice one. Thank you for being here. You're the best. And guys, thank you so much. You are the best. And we love you. And we will see you guys next week. And look, it's holiday time. Look, there's a little tree and there's a little Norm. He's the Christmas hippo. And then we got the menorah. You know, we're doing the whole thing. So we love you. The whole spread. Smorgasbord of religions. All right, guys. Have a good one. We will see you next week. Thank you so much.